Welcome once again, everybody, to another episode of B&B Hockey Talk. I'm your host, Aaron Bloxel, with my co-host, Mr. Matt Balzer. Matt, today, I guess since we've last been on air, we're going to touch on the mess that is Philadelphia, firing general manager Ron Hextall, and then coming down again today, firing assistant general manager and assistant coach. Why don't you fill us in on those details?
Yeah. So Philly fired assistant general manager Chris Pryor and assistant coach Gord Murphy today, and I think that's it for the firings for the meantime, at least in Philly.
They say that's the last of it, but who knows? They might
Yeah,
change their mind.
yeah, but yeah. News came out of New Jersey that Philadelphia has gotten permission to talk to Chuck Fletcher for the general manager position. I think reports have been coming out that they want a guy that has experience as a general manager, not somebody new that doesn't have prior experience. So I think him and Ron Francis are the two leading candidates that have been thrown out there. But yeah, I think Philadelphia is now in last place in the Eastern Conference. They've gone through 5 goalies. I think going into some goalie trade bait going out there, like I think Jimmy Howard's name's been thrown out in trade rumors, Bobrovsky. I forget the other two guys. Matt Murray's name I saw popping up.
Actually, the name I heard
Yeah.
was Steve Mason, still
Oh,
a free agent out there, and it wouldn't surprise me if Philadelphia recycled yet another goaltender.
oh man, they're just waiting for Carter Hart to get up there. That guy cannot come soon enough. But yeah, it's like when you've used 5 goalies in one season. I know some of it's due to injuries, but they put Calvin Pickard on waivers today. I think his goals against average was over 4 right now. So
Makes me think that they're making room to make a move here. The other name, by the way, that I keep hearing is free agent Kari Lehtinen, as well as a possible goaltender that they're looking into.
yeah. He was sort of one of those free agents that just sort of slipped through everybody, and he didn't sign anywhere. I believe he's just sort of been sitting out, sort of thing. Because I thought he still had like a pretty good like 1B status going into this season, but nobody picked him up.
Yeah, and the reason I mentioned Steve Mason's name is he was a free agent, but refused to sign with anybody because of his injury that he had through the summer. And apparently he's just getting over that now and is almost ready to go and is starting to take offers. So wouldn't surprise me if Steve Mason or Kari Lehtinen ends up in Philadelphia. But, man, those guys, they just fired their best goaltender, Ron Hextall. Let's touch on what's happening in Buffalo right now. I look at the standings this evening. First place in the Atlantic Division and first place in the Eastern Conference, first place in the entire NHL. They've now won 10 games in a row. And they are just finding ways to win. It's unbelievable. I mean, they dominated San Jose the other night. San Jose came back in the game, and they still found a way to win. And, man, they've looked really good doing it. Guys like Jeff Skinner, Jack Eichel, Sam Reinhart, Ristolainen, Jason Pominville, Kyle Okposo. I mean, they're just finding different guys to step up every night. What have you I'm going to say Carter Hutton's probably the guy that you're going to go with, but who do you think stepped up the most there, and why are they doing what they're doing?
Yeah. So yeah, the two biggest names are Carter Hutton and Jeff Skinner, who I think there's another dump truck of money that just backed up on his lawn with that OT winner. He had up to 19 goals now for the pending free agent. But yeah, it's just I think Phil Housley I think is getting complete buy-in from his guys, and then guys like Sam Reinhart has had a pretty good year as well. But yeah, that big line and just the guys they brought in Berglund, Saboka, Connor Sheary,
Tage Thompson's another guy.
Yeah, Tage Thompson, like all these guys here and there have really contributed offensively or defensively, helping out on the PK as well. I think Berglund's been pretty good in the faceoffs this year. Offensively, I don't think as good as they would have wanted so far, but with that top line that they've had with Eichel, Pominville, and Skinner, they've been going pretty well. And Rasmus Dahlin after a pretty slow first month in October, he's really broken out this November as well.
For me, I mean, they've always been a team that I thought is an offensive team, but they've never really had a strong defense core or a strong goaltending, and they seem to have really solidified that back end and between the pipes this year. Like you mentioned, Carter Hutton, Rasmus Ristolainen. You haven't seen his goal from the other night where he dangled Brett Burns. The celebration's worth it. Go ahead, look on our Facebook page, have a look at it, or go ahead and YouTube it. Definitely worth the watch. So you mentioned to me on air before we came on the show today that Montreal is currently sitting out of a playoff spot, and Vegas, with a huge win against Chicago 8-3 last night, has now jumped into a playoff spot until Anaheim won tonight. But, I mean, two teams going kind of in the opposite direction. I mean, we're talking about Carey Price's GAA and save percentage the other night. Can Montreal, now that Weber's back, are they going to turn the ship around, or is Buffalo, Boston, Tampa, Toronto just way too hot for them to catch anyone?
Yeah, like I think if they do make the playoffs, it will be in that last wild card spot. I know they did outshoot like Carolina like 49 to like 27 or something last night.
And Carey Price threw the biggest hit of the game.
Yeah. Oh man, I got a good kick out of that. That guy dove so hard when he touched him. But yeah, Curtis McElhinney like stood on his head. Like, talk about a guy that's sort of taking over the net in Carolina. You got guys like Scott Darling, and I know Mrazek's been injured of late, but McElhinney, he sort of like he shouldn't be the number one goalie in Carolina, but he's sort of getting the job done. After a big losing streak that Carolina had after that really hot start to the season. They've climbed back into a playoff position, tied with Montreal in points, but they, of course, have the tiebreaker. But, yeah, Shea Weber had an assist in his game back last night. I think that will really help the power play. Like, I saw Kotkaniemi in practice when they were talking about Weber's shot, practicing on the power play in practice. He just like, I almost peed myself when when that shot came at me. But yeah. So he still got that shot, and I think that will really help that back end. Jeff Petrie moving down into that second pairing role instead of relying on him for all those big minutes. And getting into Vegas, I think Marc-Andre Fleury has been on a roll. He's up to 5 shutouts this season. And with back-to-back this past week. But yeah, that top line starting to heat up. But I think that unsung hero is their second line of Max Pacioretty, Cody Eakin, and Alex Tuch. Those guys have really come together to really put up some good offensive numbers. I think Eakin's up to 10 goals. Alex Tuch is like over a point a game since coming back from injury. I think he's up to like 8 goals and 19 points or somewhere around there.
Yeah, he's been on fire.
Yeah, and Pacioretty, after a couple games back from his injury, he's starting to rip it up as well. So, but that slow start for their top line of Carlson, Marchessault, and Smith, that line's really carried them.
Sticking with the Pacific Division, I want to touch on the LA Kings for a sec. They were in Vancouver last night, pulled out a 2-1 overtime win, goal by Dustin Brown. But rumblings out of LA are with the interim coach Willie Desjardins there, not doing anything really different than what John Stevens was doing. There's a lot of rumblings there that they're really unhappy with what he's doing, and it might not be long until they replace him already with somebody else. What have you heard there, and what do you think they might do there?
Yeah, so I think this doesn't surprise us whatsoever with how Desjardins handled his term in Vancouver. When you got Ilya Kovalchuk on the fourth line and Kyle Clifford playing on your second line, your team you should not have him on the fourth line. And even Desjardins before yesterday's game sort of like countered his move, saying part of it's like on Kovalchuk, and then Desjardins said part of it's on him for not giving him the opportunities or a way to buy out of his funk that he's in. So it's just like you're getting mixed signals and all that. And I think in the third period, Kovalchuk only played I think under 2 minutes in that third period. So there's big issues, and with Desjardins, it's just like as soon as he starts getting something in his head, it's just like he doesn't want to change it. Like in Vancouver, we talk about guys like Jason Magna and Michael Chaput, and
I'm
how those
surprised
guys
those
got all
guys
these.
are. I'm surprised they haven't traded for those guys yet.
I know, yeah. So it's like when those guys are getting like opportunities over your big guns, I won't be surprised if Desjardins doesn't last a whole lot longer, or if they actually do find an actual coach, and then with him only being in on the interim base right now, they get rid of him there.
Matt Duchene scored an unbelievable goal last night. Ottawa came back and they beat Philadelphia, scoring 3 straight in the third period. Have they turned the corner? Do they have enough young skill there so that they could be, not this year, but maybe even next year, a contender, even though they don't have their first round pick?
Yeah, I think maybe in a couple of years. I think offensively right now they've been doing really well, but it's been the defensive side where like Craig Anderson's been getting like lit up like every night with that, like at least around like 40 shots a game. But I know they've allowed over 100 goals against so far this year. But offensively, like Matt Duchene, he's quietly in the top 10 in scoring right now in the NHL. And Brady Tkachuk, since coming back from injuries, really ripped it up. He's over a point a game player right now. And Drake Batherson, I know he had a really quick start and sort of quieted off, but that was a guy that was actually ripping up the American League. I think he had like 20-something points in only like 14, 15 games, something like that. And with a guy like Alex Formenton, who he got sent back to junior, he'll probably be on the team full time next year. They got a lot of young pieces, and Thomas Chabot continues. I believe he's at least tied with Morgan Riley in defenseman scoring right now with 29 points. He's been the big shocker back there. But yeah, I like some of the pieces, but I think they need to find a long-term goaltender in the near future here, with Anderson being up at like age 37.
Yeah, Thomas Chabot has made Ottawa fans forget about Erik Karlsson in a hurry. They do have, is it Max Lahoy as well on defense?
Yeah.
He's looked really good so far this year, and give him a couple of years of seasoning might help steady that back in. But why don't you break us down any more final news and notes to end today's show? As I know, Carl Alsner just cleared waivers in Montreal, but you've got a handful of things there that you want to go over.
Yeah. So just a couple of things. Yeah, on that Carl Alsner situation, Montreal's given permission for his agent to talk to teams personally about finding a trade option. Montreal would have to eat some salary if they did trade him, because Alsner, including this season, has 4 years left at $4.625 million on his cap hit for those years. So, and at age 30, that's going to be difficult to move that contract for a guy that can't even get into the top 6 of the Montreal Canadiens. Some injury notes: Roberto Luongo, that knee injury. Looks like he'll be back at least this weekend or early next week with the New York Rangers. Nemestikov's out with a concussion. He had that huge collision with Thomas Chabot in their game, where basically Chabot sort of lost the puck and he just tanked over Nemestikov that was sort of right in front of him. The Boston Bruins call up Ryan Donato from the American League. They're dealing with some injuries, including Kevin Miller, who just came back from injury. He took a puck to the throat and is out 5 weeks with an injury to his larynx. And Dustin Byfuglien looked like he suffered a scary concussion on a collision with Jamie Oleksiak, but he came back to the game after looking pretty shaky. But it looks like everything is cleared up there. And Jonathan Quick's back in LA after being activated, I think right before the Canucks game. And in Canuck news, Erica Branson's day-to-day with a neck injury, which I think he was sort of practice fighting with Jake Virtanen in practice that day before. So I don't know if that had something to do with it. But it's something to keep an eye on. And then, of course, the big news today, Austin Matthews back in the lineup. I saw he had a goal and assist in the first period. And Patrick Marleau, scoring against his former team, has now scored against all 31 current NHL teams up to date. And I'll have all of today's highlights up on our Facebook page later tonight.
Perfect. So remember to like and share us on Facebook or subscribe to us on YouTube. We unfortunately won't be on air this Friday, but we'll be back with you on Monday. But again, continue to watch all your highlights on our Facebook page. So once again, for B&B Hockey Talk, I'm Aaron Bloxall with Matt Balzer. We thank you so much for watching. We continue to encourage you to comment and like on our posts so we can continue to interact with you, the fans. Thanks very much. You guys have a fantastic evening, and we will see you guys on Monday.